Yo guys, what's going on? It's Catman227 here, and welcome to Gameplay Breakdown. Now, this is Horror Month on my channel, and you know I do this every year. I always upload videos on Junkenstein's Revenge, but this time I'm going to do it a little bit different. So I'm playing Ash in this gameplay footage here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of the Junkenstein characters. I'm going to play a round of Endless, and then I'm going to hopefully try to teach some of you how to play these characters correctly and how to use each character correctly in Junkenstein's Revenge. Because a lot of these people, I see them using the characters in not the right way, and then we end up losing because they're not using them the right way. So, Ash is probably the easiest one to learn how to use in Junkenstein's Revenge. She's one of the most useful, and one of the reasons for that is, well, Bob, because he gives you basically a fifth player. So having Bob means you have an extra gun on the field, and if you time Bob correctly, you can absolutely destroy with Ash. Now, I'm up on the high ground, as you can see here, and I'm just shooting down at the Zomnics. Now, I will say this, Ash is pure crowd control. So, what you should be doing as Ash is immediately use your coach gun and get on that little platform, or on the other elevated spot, you can go up the stairs and go on top of the little brick spot down there below me. Still next to the door, though. But those are the only two spots that you're gonna really want to sit and camp with Ash, but you mostly want to be where I'm at because you can see the whole battlefield. And because, you know, you can see every single spawn location for the Zomnics, and that's where all the shock tires come out. So you can go ahead and you can just shoot them as they come out, which is mostly what Ash is going to be doing. So as you can see, I hear this shock tire, and I immediately start shooting at it. Just do everything you possibly can. Like, you don't have to aim down sights the whole time while gunning it down. If you have to spam click, go for it. Like I did there, I just ADS'd. But so the Zombirators, which are those blue ones, are your main targets, at least in the very beginning. You really don't want to spend too much time with the regular Zomnics. You kind of want to go for the Zombirators because they can shoot and knock you off your platform. So, and killing as many of those blue ones as you can is definitely key for surviving all these rounds. So, try your best to take those out as much as possible, and try not to use your coach gun in the beginning too much, because you're going to start having to spam it as the rounds progress. So, bosses. This is where things start to get a little dicey. So, when it's an early round like this, it doesn't really matter. You can go ahead and just pop Bob. You can do whatever you need to do to hurry up and kill the boss. Because you'll get Bob back pretty quickly as long as you're spamming Zomnics. So as long as you're just gunning down Zomnics and focusing on crowd control. Because one thing people don't seem to realize is bosses do not damage the door. And that's really your only concern, is keeping the door alive. Bosses like the monster, like the witch, I do think that Junkenstein, whenever he shoots the door with his grenade launcher, I'm pretty sure it does damage the door. But your biggest concern is keeping that door alive, and the only thing that really does a lot of damage to the door are the shock tires and the Zomnics exploding next to it, which are just the regular Zomnics. So killing the shock tires is your main priority, and your second priority is killing the Zomnics. You really need to kill those as soon as possible. And as few of those on the battlefield, the better. But the bosses you should only really be shooting at as Ash when there's nothing else to shoot at, or if it's an extremely early round like it is here. Which is why I just hurry up and shot the Junkenstein. But really, you should not be shooting bosses as Ash. I need to stress that pretty heavily. It's okay to throw like some dynamite and then explode it and let them burn, but then you should be going right back to crowd control and starting to kill the Zomnics, because that's what's going to build Bob, and then you can sick Bob after the bosses. You can... Now, you'll see me do this a few times with taking out the shock tires, is you take the coach gun, and if it gets a little close to the door, what you can do is you can hit it with the coach gun. It'll do a little bit of damage. So you wait until the shock tire is like pretty much right up on you. You'll have to jump off the high ground to do this, but if it starts to get a little too close to the door, jump off the high ground, use the coach gun, and shoot it with the coach gun. Make it do maximum damage, and then just start spam firing. Like, don't ADS, just hip fire and just start spamming into it, and it'll kill it really quick. Then wait for your cooldown on your coach gun, then go right back up on the high ground. You want to take the high ground as much as possible, for the simple fact that you will be able to see the entire battlefield. You'll be able to focus down the Zombirators, which will prevent them from shooting, because those do the most amount of damage. That's going to be like their primary source of damage, is bosses and Zombirators, but mostly Zombirators, because the bosses aren't really going to do all that much damage until much later rounds. So yeah, right there. You see I shot the coach gun, then started spamming firing into it. You can do this repeatedly, so anytime it's on cooldown, you can just coach gun it. But if you don't have to use the coach gun, just try to shoot it if possible. Or if you really like don't want to, or if you're just not confident with your aim, I guess, then you can coach gun it, then start hip firing and things like that. But mostly just try to focus down the Zombirators and the Zomnics, because that's going to help you get Bob extremely quick. And in later rounds, like bonus rounds, you're definitely going to need to spam Bob. Like, pretty much every time you get him, you're going to want to throw him on the battlefield, because, I mean, like I said, it's the extra gun on the battlefield. It's an extra player, pretty much. And you don't forget, you can use the terrain, which you'll see me do in this clip a few times, is if you need Bob to camp a certain area, like I'll throw, like in this video, I throw him all the way to the center spawn, like right down the middle of the bridge, or in the middle of the map, and past the burning wagon, and right into that spawn room. And then it'll just kill all the Zomnics and Zombirators that spawn there. But if you need to spawn them a little bit close, there are those little pillars, those little square pillars that I'm standing right next to. You can actually throw Bob onto one of those pillars, and he'll just stand there and shoot. Or there's some horse stables to my left and my right, actually, by the door. So if you need him to camp the door, you can just throw Bob at the door, or any of the locations that's near it. Or you can throw him by the burning wagon, which always works. You can even throw him up on that little ridge part up there, so up on the high ground. Anytime you could throw Bob on the high ground, it would be great, because his range is, I think, limitless. Like, I don't think he has a set range. But he does have damage fall off, so if you're too far away, he's not going to do as much damage. But if you need to, you could potentially just put him on the high ground, and he'll shoot downwards, and he'll be able to hit pretty much everybody. Or if you want him to hit Junkenstein specifically, you can even throw him up on Junkenstein's ledge, and he'll just focus him down. Now, if Junkenstein's doing a lot of damage to you, and you need to finish him off quickly, but you're just getting shot and it's hard for you to aim because he's just shooting bombs at you, you can do what I just did a while ago and coach a gun up into the air and just start spam firing him while you're in midair. Or take the high ground up on the platform, which is probably what I should have done, but I wanted to stay on the low ground because we were getting absolutely bombarded with all this shit. So yeah. Now, this is where, like, I think around here, when they start throwing all this shit at you, this is when you're going to start to really have a difficult time. So, what you'll need to do is, again, focus the zombie raiders like you see me doing here. Because, like I said, they'll shoot, so they're going to do most of the damage. Now, we do have a McCree and we do have a soldier, which is great for crowd control. The problem is we don't survive as long as we could because it's mostly just me and Brigida that's on crowd control, which is not good. McCree should definitely be someone to take out the bosses, and Soldier should be on crowd control. So it's because High Noon does a lot of damage towards bosses, and Bob just doesn't have that kind of damage. So it should always be, if you have a McCree, it's always the McCree's job to take out the bosses. So he should be saving High Noon, not to kill all the Zomnics. You can use Tac Visor for that. So if you need to cut down on a bunch of the Zomnics, you pop Tac Visor. Now, I will say this, if you combo Ash with some other characters, it makes for a pretty sweet combo. So you can do a lot of crazy shit with it. And for example, Nano Boost. A Nano Boosted Bob is super powerful, especially in the bonus rounds, because when they start throwing Rip Tires, you're pretty much going to be the go-to person to focus Rip Tires, because you do not want you don't want Soldier wasting Helix rockets trying to blow up a shock tire. Like, it's not good. He needs that for bosses. He needs that for the monster. He needs that for the witch. He needs that for the summoner. Things like that. So, and Ash is gonna be the more than likely person to focus it down. McCree could fan the hammer or take a couple of pop shots if he's really quick, but they recently nerfed his range and his accuracy. So it's really going to be up to the Ash player, which would be me in this situation, to take out the shock tires. So I'm going to be pressured to take them out, which means I'm not going to be on crowd control as often. I did end up dying here because I just couldn't see the shock tire. I didn't know where it was coming from. Which will happen. You will get turned around a lot. That's why some other people are going to have to try to focus it. But it's all just situational on what everybody's doing. But the main person who needs to attempt to get the shock tire first would be Ash. If there's a Widow, then Widow definitely should be popping those fuckers left and right. But we don't have a Widow, so it's up to me. And I do end up focus firing down the Junkenstein because his bombs are starting to do a lot of damage. But as you can see, I went right back to crowd control after there were more Zomnics that I needed to kill. Now, when things start to get a little hectic, you may need to drop down. Because right now our team is not being able to sustain themselves. We don't really have a whole lot of damage right now. I mean, we do, but it's the fact that the McCree is too worried about crowd control and not worried about bosses like he should be. He is killing a few of the bosses, but for the most part, you'll notice he's not really shooting them. He's shooting the Zomnics for the most part. And it's the Soldier and the Brigida that's focusing down the bosses, which is not good. It should be Brig and McCree, and then Soldier and me should be the ones on crowd control, because we have abilities that allow us to do crowd control. Because, like I said, keeping the door alive is your main objective. If you've got more regular Zomnics and shock tires coming at you, those should be your first priority, not the bosses. Sometimes you're just going to have to straight up ignore the bosses. Because the bosses, they are not going to hurt the door. It's the Zomnics and the shock tires. So, but most people, they focus the bosses because they're the bosses. They think that that's your main priority, but it's not. If you want to survive endless, which you can do, if for those of you who don't know, you can survive it, and you can actually beat all the waves. But in order for you to do that, you have to keep the door alive, which we're not doing because they're too busy focused on bosses and not enough about the Zomnics, because the Zomnics are the main focus of the damage to the door. So if you're not killing them quick enough, you're going to lose. So Ash is by far the most useful character in this game, simply because Bob can do the crowd control for you. Now, when there's a shitload of bosses, just throw Bob out. He'll help with he'll kill some of the Zomnics, and he'll kill maybe a couple of bosses too. Like he'll shoot a boss here, a boss there. There's not really a way that you can control Bob, or a place you can throw him that makes him focus down a very specific target. He'll just shoot whatever's closest to him. So you kind of just have to use your judgment. Like, if you see more Zomnics on your right side, and you need to cut them down, you might need to throw Bob into a bunch of smaller Zomnics. That way he can do some crowd control. But if you think that you can handle it, see right here, I just used Bob on that little square thing right there to help us defend the door. But he's also kind of out a little bit, so he focuses down a specific target. Because he just shoots whatever's closest to him, and then he's kind of locked on that target. But a nano-boosted Bob, you'd be surprised on how well that really cuts enemies down. So, like, if you have an Ana, because if you have an Ash, I'm going to just say this right now. If you're in a party with 4 people, and 4 of your friends, and one of you goes Ash, someone really should go Ana, simply because of the fact that a nano-boosted Bob will destroy everything. And you need to communicate. See, one person needs to say, okay, I'm throwing out Bob. 3, 2, 1, and then you pop Bob, and then Ana throws the nano boost onto Bob as soon as he starts shooting. Don't do it the second his feet touch the ground from calling him in. Because if you nano boost him while he's still running, you're just wasting time. Wait until he starts shooting, then pop the nano. That way you get the maximum value out of a nano boosted Bob. Now here, as you can see, we're on the bonus waves now, and I take the high ground here because I'm still on leveled ground, but I'm basically just ignoring this Reaper that's next to me, because he's not that important. He's not going to kill me. He is doing small chunks of damage to me, but luckily Brigida's bashing brains with her mace, so she's keeping everybody healed up. I'm not really worried about dying here, so we've got enough healing to sustain ourselves. I go for the Riptire, but yeah, that didn't exactly work out that well, so yeah. So, I hope you guys have learned a bit on how to strategize and use Ash more efficiently with this this gameplay breakdown. And I'm going to do another one. I'm going to cover all the characters in order. So I think the next one I'm going to do is Genji, which that'll be interesting to do because I am not very good at Genji. But I'll try my best to get some good gameplay. But if you guys have enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Later!